This week on Full Circle Florida, what is Trump doing? From his unhinged comments about Rob Reiner's murder to telling a reporter, quote, quiet piggy, to now his chief of staff, former Florida Politico Susie Wiles, giving that interview to Vanity Fair, spilling all kinds of inside details on the cast of characters in the White House, and saying President Trump has a, quote, alcoholic's personality, that Pam Bondi whiffed on the Epstein files, that Marco Rubio essentially caved to Trump, that J.D. Vance is a conspiracy theorist, that Elon Musk is a ketamine user. We'll dive into all of it. Living in fear in Florida, the ICE crackdowns and the ripple effect from the farm to your table, and how the local families are afraid to go to church, go to the doctor, go to school, what a new study reveals, and the question, when is enough enough? And the reality check on the U.S. economy. New numbers out this week. Unemployment is up. Gas prices are down. It's a mixed bag. And the bottom line, this is Trump's economy, the good, the bad, and everything in between. The president went on primetime television this week to tell the nation everything is awesome and that anything that's not is Joe Biden's fault. Here are the facts. Inflation is about the same as it was when Biden left office 11 months ago. Gas prices are down, but not as low as the president claims. Unemployment is up, but so is the stock market. It's a mixed bag that's neither awesome or completely bad. It depends on your circumstances. Here's my conversation with the author of Rethinking Economic Growth, Dan Varroney.
We're ready to go anytime.
Okay, here we go. 3, 2. Dan, thanks for joining me. You know, the November report, the jobs report, shows that only 64,000 jobs were added after a big October loss, with unemployment now hitting 4.6%. What does that reveal, do you think, about where the labor market is? Is it stabilizing, or are we headed into tougher times?
I think, candidly, the labor market is stabilizing. What I will tell you that it's no secret that since the spring, when we saw the downward revisions of almost 800,000 jobs, and then later downward revisions of almost 1 million jobs, that there was a lot of concern. And then we had the government shutdown. But the bottom line is that as we look at things today, we are clearly stabilized and poised for an upswing in 2026.
How is the Trump team spinning these numbers? I mean, I know everything is viewed through a political lens these days. What is the narrative the White House is trying to push? And are they cherry picking the data just like the Biden administration was accused of doing? I mean, whoever's in power is trying to sell the American people on the most positive view of the American economy, because really, all said and done, the economy for most people is what truly matters when it comes to who they put their confidence into.
So one of the things that I do, and whoever the party or person in power is, the data is the data, right? So I'm a data-driven person. In my new book, it's all about the data. So let's look at what the data tells us. So the big thing, Paul, is, I've really tried to drill down on where we are in the economy. So we're coming out of a situation where we spent $7 trillion, and then we had regulations that were excessive. And what most people must understand is that there's a cost to those $1.4 trillion in regulations that the Biden administration implemented. And what I mean by that is when people say, why are things still unaffordable and President Biden is no longer in power? Well, because it takes time to unwind all those regulations. So from an economic perspective, we still have inflation that's a bit high at 2.8%. But what I'll say to you is that there are things that give me optimism and hope, like today, the price per barrel of oil coming down to $55.
I know you're a data-driven guy and the numbers don't lie, and I'm all for facts and not feelings, but the economy is experienced in different ways by different people, and I'm right there with you when it comes to the oil. We did a 6-minute deep dive last week on this show on the price of oil and how that trickulates down to the price of gas that you pay at the pump. It seems like people experience this economy in different ways, different pressure points, different dividends, you might say, on the good things and the not so good things. Like if you were recently laid off, or you were laid off 6 months ago, even anecdotally, we're hearing that it's taking longer for people to get rehired or to find a job. They're sitting on the sidelines longer. And I'm just wondering, there is good, there is bad, and for some folks, there's downright ugly in this economy right now. They're going to food banks. We report on it every night here on our TV station. At what point does President Trump own this economy, full stop, the good, the bad, the ugly, and he can't blame Biden anymore. It would seem that that point is now. I mean, no excuses.
So here's what I would tell you. I tell everyone, my Republican friends and my Democrat friends, is that you've got to give the new administration 18 months. At the end of 18 months, you get a sense of whether it worked or it didn't. So at the end of the 18 months in the first Trump administration, it was clear that it worked. So next month, it'll be 12 months. And I think that as we get to June 30th, we're going to have some clear indicators. And the reason why I think we're going to have clear indicators is because the new tax law, the big beautiful bill, will be in full effect after the first of the year. People will see higher wages in their take home because the withholding will be lower. They'll get tax refunds that they didn't see, somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000. They'll see goods and services, especially food, become more affordable. They'll see shelter and housing become more affordable. And I think that from my perspective, as we get into the first and second quarter of next year, the Trump administration is going to own whatever it is because their policies will be in full effect. Policies meaning the tax policy, policies, spending meaning the spending policy and budgeting, and then third, the regulatory policy. So we'll get a sense of what is or isn't working, and they will own that as we move into the first and second quarter of next year.
Well,
and again, I'm consistent with every administration.
We are 6 years into this decade of the 2020s, and I'm looking back, you know, a year that ends in 6, hardly you ever have a bad year economically, maybe except for the 70s. But you're 6 years into a decade. That time is usually well defined. This is the second time around for Trump. Your gut here, maybe less so numbers and more of a gut check. What do you think about 2026?
Yeah, let me give you my gut on this. Again, because I did a year and a half worth of research for a book. Here's what I'm just gonna give it to you straight. Here's what I see. First of all, small business is the driver of job creation in the US economy. And everybody says it, but I'm gonna give it to you with the facts. 2 of 3 every private sector jobs comes from small businesses. When you look at the 100% expensing for plants and equipment that goes into full effect in January, I believe that come the second quarter, we are going to start to see robust hiring again. And as we get into the third and fourth quarter of 2026, we are going to have robust job creation and the economy is going to be on much better footing. The other thing that I'll add to this conversation is that the retail sales numbers came out today and they're up 3.5% year over year. That number doesn't give me pause, it gives me optimism. But essentially what I'm saying to you is that I feel like the economy is far better poised to do very well next year. And I think it's because prices will come down, inflation will ease, people will have more money in their pockets. Wages are up. I think wages will increase as we get into the second, third, and fourth quarters of 2026.
Dan Varroney, author of Rethinking Economic Growth. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your time. Next, living in fear in Florida, the real cost of the immigration crackdown. Let's be honest about illegal immigration. Most Americans' ancestors were illegal by modern definition. No one on the Mayflower was a legal immigrant. No paperwork, no visas, they just showed up. Today's immigrants are doing exactly what humans have done since they started walking this earth, looking for a better life. This week, Jacob Reyes from Axios Tampa Bay stopped by for an inside look at how the ICE roundups in Florida has families, including U.S. citizens, living in fear. So, Jacob, what are the day-to-day human effects on Florida communities from these ICE raid crackdowns?
Right. You know, in me talking to some undocumented immigrants, a lot of it might not look different, right? In the sense where, you know, a lot of these people are still driving to work and they're still driving and doing all these things that technically, you know, the law says that they can't do. And there's a lot of heightened tension there. But what's happening is they're suffering insomnia, right? There's this nervousness and anxiety that happens when they get behind the wheel. Some of them have, decided to leave certain industries behind to work closer to home with potentially lower paying job and more exploitative. So that's kind of the situation of what's happening.
And these aren't just undocumented migrants feeling this strain, it's also their kids, the U.S. citizens that are having to pick up some of this as well.
I think a lot of people aren't aware that many immigrant families are multi-status, right? They could have U.S.-born children, but, undocumented parents. And because of that, some of these U.S.-born children are having to assume adult responsibilities, like driving their parent to work, picking up groceries, et cetera. And that has a lot of stressor on this child, and some of whom aren't going to college because of this.
Yeah, we're hearing stories about kids not going to college, not going to school, not going to the doctor, not going to church out of fear of being deported and their families being ripped apart.
Right. I mean, because of the policy changes under the Trump administration, churches, which used to be a safe haven, are not that anymore. And because of that, they're having to change all their daily habits.
Bottom line, is this going to ramp down in 2026 or ramp up? When's enough? I mean, any indication this slows down?
I mean, Florida has a long history of putting up barriers for undocumented immigrants, and we've seen that especially grow under Governor Ron DeSantis, and it doesn't seem that GOP appetite for that has changed, so I see this staying.
All right, Jacob Reyes from Axios, many thanks.
Thank you.
Next on Full Circle Florida, from the halls of power in Florida to running the West Wing, Susie Wiles on the record at not holding back. If you didn't know the name Susie Wiles, you probably did after this week. She went from being the most powerful insider in Florida politics to quietly running the entire Trump White House as the current chief of staff. But today, Washington is on fire over her blockbuster Vanity Fair profile, a raw, unfiltered peek inside the West Wing, with Wiles describing Donald Trump himself as having a, quote, alcoholic personality without the alcohol. So why are the most powerful people in the country posing for glossy portraits and dishing gossip to a famously liberal magazine while half the country feels ignored and financially stressed out? Here's my conversation with our political analyst, Dr. Susan McManus. Why give Vanity Fair this much access, the interviews plus the photos, when you know their audience? I mean, this is classic liberal elite New York media. It's right there in the title, Vanity Fair. What was the audience that they're going for here?
Well, a lot of people are scratching their heads, but there's several reasons that you could argue. One would be that she is renowned for speaking her mind and isn't afraid of saying anything, and probably decided that she would sort of emulate the president, who now is taking on press conferences and taking questions from any and everybody. That's one thing, of course. And another is the fact that, in a way, no matter what happened, it feeds into Republican supporting views of the news media. As it turns out, all the negatives now, they're just saying, well, that's the fake press.
And no publicity is bad publicity, I guess. Well, did Wiles think her candidness would come off as loyal, or was she venting frustrations that reveal deeper doubts that she has about Trump?
Only she knows that. But the bottom line is that when you give 11 different interviews spread out over time, and you don't know how all the stories were really put together. Yes, you might have tapes on all of them, but pieces were put with what. But she's known for being very loyal, and even Senator Scott, whom she worked for, when he was running, says that she's the most loyal person that he's ever known. So who knows?
The parts that are getting attention, I mean, she said things like J.D. Vance is a conspiracy theorist. She admitted that the tariffs were confusing and that there was not a consensus and that she wanted to wait, but that they kind of threw spaghetti at the wall to see what would stick. She said that, this alcoholic personality comment that she made about Trump. And I'm curious if that says more about her personal life. Her dad is Pat Summerall, the famous NFL broadcaster who struggled with alcoholism. Is she projecting that onto Trump, or is this legitimately, real insight into his perceived impulsiveness and how he wants what he wants and no one can tell him, wait a minute, let's think this through?
Well, certainly that's a perception a lot of people have, which is why you might say exactly like you speculated that would be one of the thoughts there. But in terms of the alcohol comment, it is important that he himself said that he agreed with that analysis of his personality. And it was also reminded to me that his brother had trouble with alcohol. So I don't think that really is having the play once people hear the full context. And that's a concern when you can cherry pick out of anything the things that are attention grabbers, clickbait sort of stuff. But there's a lot of truth to some of this, and people know about his personality.
The portraits, and then again, it's because it's this premeditation. Okay, I had to make calendar. This came up on my phone. I have to be at this place at a certain time to take these portraits, and then they come out a certain way. I mean, I have to say, the one with Marco Rubio, he looks sad. J.D. Vance, they got this close-up, scrunched face thing going on. You put trust into a media outlet that it's going to come out a certain way, and I'm just curious how they thought this would turn out.
I really don't know that. I think so what they used to call $1 million question or whatever. Right. People are just scratching their heads about that. And besides that, once it did come out, the sort of, if I could be so crass as to say hideous nature of a lot of these hideous looking photos, it reminds a lot of people of friends of theirs that have taken a hideous picture of them and then spread it around. Right. It's not something that endears anyone. If anything, the only group that would be really thrilled about these ugly photos are the people that really dislike the president.
Well, and that's my whole point, is that you're going into sort of enemy territory here. I don't know what they thought was going to come out of this. The fallout, do you just shrug and move on if you're the Trump administration in the West Wing, and it's like another news cycle, everyone forgets what happens 5 minutes ago, and not a big deal at the end of the day?
Absolutely, that is the case. There is, even in the last day or two afterwards, not been a whole lot of discussion of this.
How much longer, though, can Trump sell this idea? You saw him go on primetime television this week and essentially say that everything's fine. And obviously a president is going to spin it in a positive way. I mean, most presidents would, right? I mean, it would be to their detriment not to. But you've got these mass deportations. You've got, and some would say that's what he promised he would do. Others would say it's inhumane, it's gone too far. You've got the tariff confusion. You've got the Venezuela blockade at this point. Not a lot of people are understanding what are we going to be doing with Venezuela. There's not a lot of clear messaging from the White House on that. Where is this going? All of this is causing people to raise questions, including MAGA itself. Marjorie Taylor Greene among them, saying that the tide has turned with MAGA against Trump. Those are sort of her words. But the contradiction, as with everything with Trump, it's complicated. He has had some big wins. The Israel-Hamas deal, gas prices are down, though they do fluctuate. Then he goes and makes these comments this week about Rob Reiner's murder and the family, tells the female reporter, quote, quiet piggy. That was a few weeks ago. How do you measure him in this first year? Is he a president that, love him or hate him, he's going to do it his way? Or is it, ironically, a tired old man who is losing his mind, which is kind of how the last guy got voted out of office?
Well, I don't think the last comments you made are very applicable to him. He is very unusual personality. We all know that. A couple things. One is there's only been 2 presidents that have actually seen their party keep seats in the Congress after their election initially. It was George Bush and also, I think, Bill Clinton, perhaps. But Bush was really the one that got quite a bit of bump from it. So it's not unusual to see his popularity decline or whatever. But what I thought was most telling this week was his address to the nation. It was so not Trump, concise, 20 minutes instead of an hour and a half. Not rambling, but focusing on what is the big question that everybody's asking. What are you going to do about the economy? Can't you fix it? And he intentionally skirted foreign policy. Not much discussion of that, which is very upsetting to people. When we have a decline in our own economy, people don't want to deal with sending money to other countries.
Would you say, and I have to leave it here, the clock is ticking on how long he can blame Joe Biden for the economy that Trump now owns? I mean, we're a full year in here.
Absolutely, that is the case.
And that's what 2026 would probably be all about. I mean, these midterms, it's going to be about the economy, as it always is.
It's going to be an incredible, very competitive, contentious election year coming up. So happy holidays to everyone.
Right, of course.
See you in 2026. Be ready.
Enjoy. Don't talk about politics at home. All right, that's what we do here. Dr. McManus, thank you so much for stopping by. Appreciate it. Full Circle Florida will be back right after this. Thanks for watching us here on Full Circle Florida. We hope you'll join us again next week, and make sure to add our free 24/7 streaming news channel, Tampa Bay 28 Plus.